the introductory session, we saw that the personal interview carries as high a weightage as the CAT, and the two of them together form bulk of the evaluation, right from it could range from 50% to 60 to 70% of the total weightage. And in the interview process, what is evaluated is your personality. To make it more clear, personality is a little opaque word. You as a person, even clear who you are, that is what is being evaluated. And the way to prepare is, we left it at that point, a lot of introspection. So what is it that you find about yourself while you're doing this introspection? What do you search? Answers to what sort of questions? Obviously, one simple thing is to answer all the specific questions, like why do you want to do an MBA? Why are your ICATs the way they are? What interests you in life? What are your value systems? What are your belief systems, right? So you keep introspecting, keep finding more and more about yourself. The more you dig about yourself, the more easier it is going to be to frame answers to a lot of questions. Okay. In today's session, you're going to get a little more clues about what it is that you introspect and how do you build up, let's say, a story. Right? So what the agenda for today's class is, I'll be talking about two important skills that you need to have to do well in a personal interview. And I'll also talk about what is the panel searching for in a candidate. In sessions after this, I will be discussing about how to prepare for specific questions. Questions on work experience, questions on career goals, questions on academics, questions on achievements, hobbies, interests, and so on, right? But first, the two important skills. The first skill is that of a salesperson. Since the interview process is a sales process, have no doubts about it. And it's not a very difficult thing to figure out what is the product being sold. It is you. You are the product. The panel is the customer. There are a lot of products available, and the panel is going to select one of the product. What is more important here, student, is we mostly worry about the product. Yeah, we say maybe the product, that is me, is not good enough. And that is where the worrying thing comes. What we forget in the whole process is that in the sales process, you are also the salesperson. Right? So it's not just a product and the panel, and the panel comes and checks the product, and then whichever product it likes best, it is going to pick that up. If that is the outlook, then I can understand the insecurities that you have, right? There are going to be people with better academics, there are going to be people with better achievements, and so lots of things, right? So I may feel insecure. I again come back, what we are missing is you are also the salesperson. And here comes that important skill. A salesperson can influence the sales a lot. Right? In fact, that is the quality of a salesperson, to close that sales and to sell the product. Right? So, for a moment, keep the product aside and start looking at your skills as a salesperson, students. Right? So what are the good qualities of a salesperson? Think of it, right? We would have experiences purchasing some decently costly goods. a mobile phone. I don't think so y'all would have gone out and bought a washing machine or an air conditioner or so on. But still try to imagine or go out one of these days, just spend a day walking into 5-6 different stores thinking of purchasing a air conditioner. Okay. Is it summers? Yeah, summers are going to come, right? So you can think about it, right? And go and see those experiences. I wouldn't think that it is a bad idea, right? You'll relate to what I'm going to say next types. Now try and judge who is a good salesperson. Some of the important qualities of a salesperson, a good salesperson, is one, knowing the product very well. You'll be surprised, at how many stores you go and you ask, there's the same salesperson who is selling a printer also, and a washing machine also, and an air conditioner also, and God knows how many other things. And the sort of information that he has is only limited to these are the variety of printers that we have, these are the prices that they have, and that's about it. Yeah, you ask him details about it. You go and ask him, okay, can you tell me the difference between a laser printer and what else do we have? Or dot matrix? I don't think so. Today we have dot matrix printers, but there are those other variety. I'm forgetting it, right? Okay, they would not have a lot of clue about it. They have just read the spec sheets and that's about it. They would not know anything in detail about it. Yeah, try that. And it is such a putting off exercise that you go, you want to make the purchase, you're interested, but you don't get enough information because the salesman does not know about the various products, or at least does not know the details. Right? So the first and foremost is knowing the product. So we come back to that earlier introspection part again. How would I know the product? I would know the product only through a lot of introspection, right? Hold on to this thought, right? Some other qualities of a salesman. Once he knows the product well, the other important skill of a salesman is his convincing abilities, right? And these convincing abilities are not the pushy kind of a thing. Yeah, in fact, they do not even appear as if he is trying to convince. The best salesman is one where he can effect a sales process without you realizing that he has sort of made the sales. Yeah, without he appearing to be, convincing you to buy this. But yet it is convincing, right? And how does that happen? That happens, by a couple of things. One, the person should be very affable, right? Friendly. Second thing, it should be a very easy, fluid, easygoing conversation, right? And I'm coming to very small things to it. There should be no awkward pauses in this process. Okay, it's a pretty important point, these awkward pauses that happen, right? So it should not be like, okay, washing, I want a washing machine. Okay, we have one from IFB, we have one from Whirlpool, one from LG. Okay, that's it. Yeah. So, okay, well, what is your requirement? Okay, 5 kgs. We have these two models here, and that's it. So the customer has to then scratch. Okay, what is the difference between the two? Both are good branded products. Yeah, LG hai, and that is the Whirlpool. Most of the time, you'll get such answers, students. Right? Obviously, I know this is LG and that is Whirlpool, and then okay. Still, what is the price? So you see, this is the awkwardness that happens, and this process happens in an interview. This process happens very often in an interview. It happens when you start looking at the interview as a Q&A session and not as a sales process. So you go out as an interviewee, you go out, you sit and you expect the panel to ask questions, and for whatever the panel is asking, okay, which is your favorite subject? So two very common answers. Let's say one is, I don't have any major favorite subject. because the student is a little scared. If I commit to some subject, I'll be questioned on it, right? Or the other answer is, okay, my favorite subject was banking. Pause, right? There's nothing out of that. Okay, or who's your favorite author? My favorite author is Chetan Bhagat. Pause again, right? Okay, what do you like in him? His book about 5 point someone, that was very interesting. Over, close. Again, the panel has to scratch his mind. What do I ask? So this is how it happens, students. A lot of times. And if you want to change it, you need to learn from that great salesman, and that great salesman is not going to allow such pauses. He's going to go ahead and is going to talk about it. Okay, he's going to volunteer information. So he's going to come about and he's going to say, so this is a washing machine. It comes from the reputed brand of LG. It is a front loading machine. Its motor capacity is so high. These are the two places where you can use this sort of detergent, that sort of fabric whitener. The cycle, this product has 8 different cycles. As I can see, it seems you are good sports enthusiasts, so I'm sure you don't want to wash your sports clothes along with your regular clothes, right? So there are 2 different cycles for this. So do you know what I'm trying to do? He is going to be unstoppable. He's going to talk, and this talk and everything comes from being ready. He's not going to think at that moment. So this is what you should learn, right? Knowing about the product and being able to talk about the product. And you'll be able to talk only when you have stories built about the product, stories that have come about from that introspection. Okay, so students, these are again, I'm using these words very consciously. Become a storyteller. You don't like a salesman, become a storyteller. I'm sure there are going to be people who are going to object to it. Hey, isn't it interview, right? How can I just keep talking? Students, it is an interview. The prerogative of which direction it goes in, when to stop you, when not to, lies with the panelists. But then do not make it an awkward conversation. If the panelist does not want to listen to your story, he will stop you over there and he will ask you something else. But then at least at your own end, don't make the process difficult for him. I'll again remind you from lecture number 1. They are humans, okay, and they are going through this process 8-10 hours a day for 30 to 40 continuous days. It is a very tiring process, students, and anyone who can make their jobs very easy is going to definitely going to be viewed very favorably. So most probably you're going to have mock interviews. So my suggestion to you is, first build all these stories, build volumes of stories such that you can talk and talk. Okay, and in the mock interviews, I'm pretty sure you will realize the sanctity of that process and so on, and you're not going to become a so-called Bol Bachchan type of a person, right? That who is just talking nonsense. I'm sure that formality of the situation will take care of these worries of yours, or else the panel will tell you a feedback. Hey, listen, you are going overboard, right? So, but at least till then, come out and build. Remember, I'll again say, one of the bigger things of not being able to perform well in an interview is not having enough stories to talk about or not being able to speak out. So first get that in, and then you can always control it. But at least while you're preparing, get all these stories in. Right? The other thing of salesperson, again a very significant one, is the salesperson is not put down by anything. He does not care you try to run down the product, he's not going to be offended. He's not going to be, he's not going to be disappointed, oh, like this, yeah, crestfallen or anything. He has gone through those whole things, people coming, criticizing the product or else not. And like for example, he'll say, acha, isme color nahi hai, you don't have color choices, this is the only color that you have. He's not going to, oh yeah, I don't have any colors, I'm sorry. That is not how he does, right? He says color is limited, but what was offered in turn instead of color is the built of this. Do you know this is built with more 5 mm grade whatever steel body, right? It is corrosion resistant. There is this net given. Do you see what he has done? He suddenly changed it from what was being discussed, color choices, to something very different. And again, where does this come from? This comes in from a story that he knows that he needs to talk about the steel body. He needs to talk about the net that is given such that rats don't get into the washing machine. Whatever it is, right? So, that is exactly what happens when panelists try to put down, or let's say, your ACADs aren't very great. What do? You have to be that salesman who says, okay, yes, my ACADs are not good, but then what is good? You need to have that story to ready that story so that you can put it across. And it's not about the story, it's more about that personality aspect, that I'm unputdownable, unflappable. Yeah, he's energetic, that nothing can put him down, kind of a thing, right? It's a very important thing. One of the most common reasons of ruining interviews is nervousness. And you don't require me to tell you that, right? Nervousness, worry, and these all things are what makes the interview difficult, So maybe this is the right time for me also to tell you this, that maybe as an individual, as a person, as a personality that you have, you may not be this guy. You may not be this amazing salesman. Yeah, you may be a more reserved person. You may not like to talk a lot. You may be a very modest person, and truly modest, and so on. Yes, you could be. And you should be all these things also. But then what is very important is, students, a part of the person or personality is mobility. Mobility as in, yes, my base is a reserved nature, a more brooding kind of a person, not a very talkative. That is my base nature. But these 10 minutes that I have got, I don't have to be the same person always throughout my life. For these 10 minutes, can I not change myself? That is not going to make you, let's say, a boastful kind of a guy, right? If you are a modest, do you understand that? Just out of modesty, if you let go of this whole opportunity, think whose loss is it? So mark those words, mobility, right? Be reserved, be introvert. But why can't, when you walk into that room, why can't you suddenly be a different person, a Superman wearing that cape and building nice stories? You have to, students. Yeah. It is those, you don't change as a person because of that. You just add one more dimension to your personality, and that is what we are talking about now. Who am I? Okay, so one part of me was, so when I was introspecting, I realized that I am not this kind of a salesman. So can I practice doing that? Can I practice doing that in some interactions that I have? Yeah, with a friend, with someone that I meet up. Just try to be a different kind of a guy. Yeah. Okay. So that is all the story about salesman, right? So here, now these stories are what you need to build when you introspect. how many stories? At least 4 or 5. And if you still don't understand what these stories I mean by, let me again talk. Who are you? One aspect of me is my good ACADS. So that is one story that I have to make. Now you have to make a story behind that ACADS. So it's not enough to say that I have scored 90 in 10th, 91 in 12th and 8.7 in graduation. It's not enough. They have these numbers. So what is important is, at least don't you link this up and say, all throughout my 10th, 12th and graduation, I have been a consistently good, I have consistently good academics. Yeah, and I lived up to my responsibility of a student. I took my seriousness. I'm a very serious student as regards studies. So you need to build that kind of a story, right? Probably that marks may not tell everything, so probably you'll have to tell, this landed me in the top. I've always stood among the top 5 students of my class. I've seen so many students in my mock interviews, when asked, okay, where does that place you? Oh, I've been in the top 3. Why can't you come up with this? Right? Again, that part of that, is it out of modesty? I don't think so. Most of often it is just about, I did not think about it significantly. I did not build it like a story, right? Okay, ACADS, let me not talk more about it. It will disappoint a lot of other people. So the other people think, okay, that story is not the ACADS, but that story could be one subject. That story could be one project that you have done. A very simple, we had a fair at the college and we put up this stall, and you had some achievement out of in that, right? So build that story. So that is one story you have. It could be one subject, it could be one project, it could be complete academics. One story could be an incident of your life, which was an eye-opener, a life changer. One story could be an inspiration that you derive from some personality, some leader or so on who inspired you, and which is crucial. So maybe the choice of making the MBA or MBA as a career might be influenced by some leader, someone that you read about or something. So that becomes a story. Right, incidents may not happen. Your experience, someone might say work experience could be a story. You might not have work experience, but you might have a lot of experience. So I am very resourceful person. Whenever there is a need, a lot of people come looking for help to me. Right? This is a story. Now you should know, you should support it with a lot of examples, but this is what I'm trying to say when you figure that out about yourself. Right? Your story could be a background. Yeah, army background, how it has shaped your personality. You have been at many places. A story could be a place. Surprisingly, my IIM Calcutta interview, almost not half, but maybe at least 1/3 of the time we were discussing about Pune. Because that is the way I came, I put it, not consciously. I was a fool at that time, right? I did not even know, but why I'm telling you this example is how story building happens. I said I come from Pune, which is known as Oxford of the East. This is how you make a story. This is how you get into it. So now that I'm wiser, if I know that I want something to discuss about Pune and its education or whatever it is, or maybe its culture, its history, I will get that in students, right? The Maratha capital of this or whatever it is, wherever you're. So hope you get the idea, right? So this all is about what all you can build. You don't have all these, you have just a plan of the future. That can be a big story, but then you need to have that plan very detailed. At this age I'll do this, at this age I'll do that, at this will happen, and so on. Storytelling, right? Okay, so let's move to the second skill. So the second skill is that of related to close-ended and open-ended. Your ability to understand questions as close-ended, open-ended. It's not a very difficult one. I am sure you understand. Close-ended are those which are, not open to interpretation, has more like a yes-no kind of an answer, limited possibilities of answering. Open-ended, open for interpretation. You can choose how you want to respond to it. Many ways are open. How do you reply? So, what about this? Since almost anyone that you ask advice about interview is going to tell you that you need to lead the interview, in the direction you want. And yes, it is a truth, and some of the best interviews or so on are directed and driven by the interviewee and not the panel. Okay, but it's very easy said than actually done. And how can you do it? You can do it with this idea of open-ended, close-ended. So listen carefully. So what is your name? I'm pretty sure you'll understand is more of a close-ended question, right? Introduce yourself is an open-ended question. So don't debate too much about what it is. You know that thing, right? The point that is being made is this open-ended or close-ended or open-ended are not watertight, distinct compartments. There's a degree of openness and closeness. And that degree is something that you should exercise. The skill that I'm talking about, right? You should be able to understand or to let's say consider the question as open-ended whenever you want it, and as very close-ended when you don't want it, or when you want it to consider as close-ended. Let me make it more clear. What is your favorite subject? It might almost seem like a close-ended question, right? I'm just saying can I not answer is if it is about curriculum, my favorite subject is Transformers. However, I am very fascinated by artificial intelligence, right? So have I got a little openness over there? Now, the possibility here are, let me address this one, digress a little bit. A lot of students are going to object immediately at this moment itself. But then the question was, what is your favorite subject? Can I, you're just hijacking the answer. Student, I again say, are you looking at it like a Q&A session? So he asked, what is your favorite subject? So my favorite subject is Transformers. Who is your favorite author? So my favorite author is Chetan Bhagat. Done. So that's it. So that is what the intention of the question is. I really don't think why are we so cynical, or why do we make a life so more difficult? Okay, if he thought that the part that you said about artificial intelligence is not needed, he's going to ignore that part. But then, at least have I not put in a clue that, right? I should be doing that almost every place, students. Every place I should be putting in clues, right? So means I should be keeping that at the top of mind, those 4-5 stories that I have, and I need to give clues about it that I want to talk. And these clues will only come when you think about the question a little more open-ended and not close-ended. It can be even to the extent of, what is your name? My name is Sharmishta, and Sharmishta is the name of a constellation. and that is where I got interested into astrology, or not astrology, sorry, astronomy, sorry, yeah. And so this example that I'm giving is an example of a real student from Bombay ages back, right? She got selected into SP Jain with this, right? Not because of this, but I'm saying ki, it is again very, this is the sort of interest. So name. Now that doesn't mean you build a story to your name, but if I have an unusual name, it is very common for panelists to ask, okay, what is the meaning of that name or anything. Now, I don't think so why I should trouble the panelist or wait for the panelist to ask that. If I have an opportunity of something that I want to talk, I'm going to go ahead and volunteer that information, right? And that volunteering part is where I'm saying that don't look at questions as very close-ended questions, right? So what is your hobby? It is not enough to say that my hobby is reading. It's a bad answer, students. It's a really bad answer. What is your hobby? Look at it. Most of the questions, students, are so wide open. You'll find that hardly anyone asks, now what are the marks you have scored, or what are your name, or so on. Most of the questions are going to be very wide open. There you don't have any great effort to be put. Listen carefully. The greater effort to put is your answers have to be close-ended. You cannot leave your answers open-ended. So this answer of my hobby is reading is an open-ended question, right? Open-ended answer, sorry students, right? It is a very open-ended answer. It does not tell me anything about you, yeah, except that you read. So my next question is going to be, what do you read? I pick up any book that I can lay my hands on. What sort of answer is this? Again, yeah, very bad answer, right? It has not taken me anywhere. So remember, your answers have to be close-ended. So my interest is photography, and I own a Canon DSLR, EOS, whatever it is, right? At least put that in somewhere. Or I like shooting landscapes, or I like shooting wildlife. It is suddenly a new area that you can get into discussions, no, students? So your answers have to always be very, very close-ended. And that close-ended answers, what should it close into? It should close into those 3-4 stories that you have built up. So if I have a story of mine that I need to talk about my project work, the question may be even about ACADS, but I can get my project work in. The question may be about you don't have work experience. I can change that, and I can say on paper, if work experience is working in a company, I don't have anything. But if experience is about dealing with people and so on, then I have this project work. You know, that is how close-ended, and this project that we did, and continue with that idea. Don't stop. So your answers have to be close-ended. Hope you would get an idea, right? So understand the spirit of the question, understand questions a little more open-ended, but your answer should all be close-ended, students, right? Okay. So last bit then. Laid a lot of importance on the story, but then remember, it's there's a purpose of being selected to a B school, right? And so there are some things that the story should convey. That is what the panel is looking for. And what are those few things that it should convey? So one of the very important point that the panelists are searching is a past commitment that you have shown and some achievement that you have in it. Okay, so the default would have been ACADS. Since you are a student, it is expected that you do well in ACADS. But remember, this is just the default. right? And we know how our education system works. We know we might be engineers or so on, mostly because everyone does engineering, right? So it's not necessary that you do well in ACADS, but then what other commitment do you have? So a few of those stories that you have definitely should revolve around some commitment that you have shown to anything, any cause. And it does not have to be a very noble thing, right? As in a commitment to an animal cause, you have worked in an NGO, all those things you don't have to really, yeah, so maybe I did not talk about this earlier. So again, a little bit of a digression. When you search for answers which pleases the panel or something, that is a time where you are projecting an image that you are not. Okay, and remember, what is evaluated? You as a person is going to be evaluated. If you start projecting something that you are not, believe me, you cannot carry it through. Okay, it will not happen, right? The whatever is being tested as an individual, who you are, suddenly, you'll have these fuzzy areas where it doesn't make a lot of sense. Your picture, what you're trying to paint, is not very, very clear. And then there is a doubt that seeps into the panelist's mind. These all things are disastrous for you, students, right? So you need to be very clear that you don't project something that you aren't. So find that commitment. That commitment would be somewhere. That commitment could simply be a commitment to my family. The way I took care of, shouldered certain responsibilities, whether it was sitting in a shop, helping my father off, or it could have been with a health related. That commitment could be something that you took upon yourself. It was not a subject, a curriculum matter, but then you took responsibility, you took interest in that area and you learnt it up. You spent hours practicing it. That could be as simple as a Bharatnatyam you pursued, a hobby that you pursued. That commitment could be for anything. That commitment could be your commitment to watching movies or following a football club or anything. It could be your commitment could be about bikes. I see a lot of people interested in those all things, right? And how but then there should be some commitment shown. How how every Saturday, Sunday you woke up at this time and you have driven this much kilometers. That you have to show that sort of passion and that sort of action in it, right? Where you have experienced some discipline, you have shown some planning process. All these things are important, friends, right? You can't say that I'm interested, or one part of my story is travel, but then how many places have you traveled? Well, I've only been to 1 or 2 local places. That doesn't help, students, right? So that commitment has to be shown somewhere. It is without the panel going convinced, if the person is interested in something, this person will go all out and try to do well in that area. If he doesn't get that feeling, the selection is not going to happen. The second thing that a panel is searching for is a logical thinking ability. This thing leads to this, this thing leads to this, this thing leads to this. So all those who are worried about your academics, students, the role of ACADS is over. The role of ACADS was one in the criteria that they had for sending interview calls or for the final, the composite score, your 10th, 12th. That is where the ACADS matters are over. If they wanted to reject you just because of the ACADS you have, they would have done it long back. Yeah, it's not about this, and anyways you don't have a control over there anymore, right? So my point that I'm saying is, the logical thinking ability. What is now going to be tested is that low ACADS that you have, why do you have it? And then it's not going to go unnoticed. They're going to ask you, Why are ACADS poor? The problem is when you don't have an answer to that. Oh, so that again goes about how well do you know the product? You don't have an answer to that. What is it? Such a mysterious process? I don't think so. There's any mystery in any of them. Most of the reason for not having great ACADS is going to be about not being serious about your studies. So come back to this. What we are thinking about is there a logical process? So that guy is going to say, okay, you do not even know the reason for why your ACADS are poor or so on. What sort of analysis are you going to do of a business plan, of something which is in the future, right? I want you to be able to, know reasons, judge what is happening, why is it happening. You're interested in marketing. Why are you interested in marketing? No great answer. Then why did marketing come from, right? You want to do this course, why do you, any why, and that why could be as easy as why do you like Chetan Bhagat? If you do not have great answers, I'm going to say this person is superficial. All answers, everything are just surface level answers, right? But those answers, they do not hold a lot of logic in them. They do not hold, a lot of thought analysis that has gone into them. So it's important. Every why is checking about, do you have a reason? And these whys are going to come about a lot in that interview, right? So be ready for those. Some other things that you need to be ready for is spontaneity, ability to, the questions are very basic. So you are interested in artificial intelligence. How are you going to apply artificial intelligence to role of a housewife? Very simple, straight questions. Remember, these guys are professors. So it is quite possible that you might have a professor teaching accountancy and an OB professor, and he knows nothing about your interest area or whatever you are trying to build a story around. So what is he going to do? He's going to just translate that into something very basic, commonplace scenario, and is going to ask you to, reply, just to test your commitment. Have you just claimed it, or do you even really have something to show it about it, right? So that's it, students. So in a summation, find out about yourself, get those 4 or 5 different stories that you want to get into an interview, become a salesman, volunteer, keep talking, be nice, make the atmosphere easy going over there. Don't get lost in that formality kind of a thing. Look at questions a little more degree of openness. Your answer should all be only about those few areas that you have thought about, and about specifics. Get as much specific as you can. Okay, and be ready for surprises, because they do put in a lot of this, right? So and the way to handle the surprise again is going to be going back to those 4 or 5 stories. So now listen here again, don't invent new things sitting in that interview process. It is going to fall flat, right? And they keep looking at this. When does the person venture into something he is unsure about, he or she, right? So don't do that. If need be, come back to the same point. It's just a 10 minutes. You will not, even if you have to speak about the same 3-4 points twice, it's okay, but do that. Don't go out beyond what you have prepared, right? Okay, so hereafter we'll look at how to answer specific questions.